This is the More to Life Than Money podcast. Real people, real stories, real conversations about wealth and abundance with your host, J.W. Rayhans.
Well, welcome back to the More to Life Than Money podcast. Today, I hope you are ready to just hear one of those phenomenal, just odds against you kind of stories, because we have a woman with us that is incredible. Her story is incredible. She continues to use her story to inspire so many people, not just in the way she leads professionally, but the way that she leads and is transparent openly. And she's had all sorts of different accolades that we could give her. She currently gets to serve as the CEO of The Worker. In fact, she's the first woman to get to serve in this particular role. And throughout our time together, you're going to get to hear about so many other things that she has absolutely done with her life. In fact, she even has a homelessness side of her story. She has instability in her childhood. And what you're going to experience is nothing short of phenomenal. And so, Carrie, I just want to thank you for being here with us, being willing to allow all of us to hear pieces of your life. So thank you so much.
I don't know how I'm going to live up to this person he's talking about, but I feel very lucky to be here, and I'm super happy to share.
Thank you. Well, I want to share with you, there's some traits about you that have been shared with me.
Okay.
And I want to share those up front, because for any of you listening, I want you to just kind of get some insight to who Carrie is from the perspective of others as we kind of launch into things that you're going to be able to apply in your own life. And it's going to be a situation where you're going to be sitting there thinking, you're going to be in your car, you're going to be in your workout. If you're in your workout, by the way, be ready to like increase the speed on your treadmill, because all of a sudden you're going to get all fired up, and then you're going to run into the screen in front of you. So just be ready. Just be ready to think of all the common ground you probably start to see in your life with what Carrie has experienced in hers, and yet you're going to still see the uniqueness in the way that she has thread this into such a success story. And so I actually wrote some of these down, Carrie. So check this out. All right. And this comes from some people that know you.
Okay.
It comes from a little bit of homework and research.
Okay.
And so check out these words, and I'm just excited to share them with you. Resilient, operationally literate. And we'll talk about why that's important, especially if you're running a company and running an organization and a nonprofit. But here's one of being an empathetic and empathy-driven leader. Mm-hmm. Really being able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, whether you've experienced it or not, but getting a sense of who they are and what's important to them. You'll like this one. You definitely combine life's experiences with disciplined execution.
Okay.
And apply the things that you've gone through in your life in powerful ways. And then just being able to earn trust across a variety of different levels in an organization, but also being able to just build that rapport and trust with people from so many different life situations, walks of life. And we know that's because a lot of it is because you've experienced so many different walks of life. I mean, you have a receptionist to CEO kind of professional story, which is absolutely incredible. And so here's what I'm going to start with is I'm going to actually put you on the spot a little bit and say, okay, somebody just walks up to you and is like, oh my goodness, you're Carrie. What can you tell me about you? And you're just looking at this lady in front of you going, who are you? But what would you tell her?
Ooh. I would be very taken back, first of all, but that I'm a mom. That I'm a mom, and that has been my greatest joy and greatest accomplishment in my life. That I'm lucky enough to be a part of an organization that focuses on impacting like a vulnerable population. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm a granddaughter. And a really good friend. I think that's probably where I'd go with it.
That's outstanding. Thanks for sharing that right up front. You started with mom.
Yep.
Okay. So many women will talk about just the joy they get from being a mom. But why do you say And why is it the first thing that you mentioned in terms of being a mom? Like, why is that so important to you to get to have that? And I also realize that there's probably some people listening that either aren't a mom yet, but really want to be. There's probably some women who have wished and dreamed for their whole lives to be a mom, but never got that opportunity. And so I just want an opportunity for you to share what's been the gift of being a mom to you.
Yeah. I think I'm going to throw you a curveball on this one, actually.
Okay, let's do it. All
okay,
right.
You ready?
Okay.
So I think I was actually born a mom, and that sounds super crazy.
Yeah,
but being the oldest of my siblings, born into a family of poverty and addiction, I was like, from my earliest memories, like I was always focused on like taking care of my siblings, looking out for my mom and my dad, super hyper aware of surroundings. We were homeless most of my childhood. There was a lot of trauma, and so I was like the protector.
Yeah.
I also wanted to make sure like that we ate, right? And we didn't have electricity a lot of times, and so it was like getting the food stamps back when they were paper, and like going to the store and getting snacks, right? So I think like truly from my earliest memories, I always had like this really motherly, nurturing thing about me.
Yeah.
But I think directly what you're asking is about my true daughter. And, you know, I basically was born a mom, right? And I mothered my siblings until I went off on my own when I was 18. And I was a junior in high school when I moved out and on my own. And to make a really long story short, I ended up pregnant at 19.
Okay.
I left Aubrey's dad when I was 5 months pregnant and became a single mom before she was born.
Oh, wow.
And so here we are almost 26 years later. And I've been a single mom my whole life. And that little girl gave me a greater purpose than I think I could have ever imagined. You know, I knew when I was pregnant with her that I was put on this planet to like break the cycle of addiction and poverty. I knew that I would be damned if she experienced any of the traumas or lifestyle that I grew up in.
Okay.
So I was like super determined to be like the best mom that I could be, and worked really, really, really hard to protect her and do all the things that I could to set her up for like true success.
Yeah.
But she's my greatest accomplishment because she's a million times better than I will ever be.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to go to college. She did. She's smart and beautiful and confident and has like this nurturing, empathetic heart. And just the way that she maneuvers through life and how she makes decisions. And I think most importantly, like how she treats herself and others. Like that to me is so beautiful. Like I just couldn't be more proud. And I think she will forever be like truly my greatest accomplishment. And she's why I'm here and why I am who I am.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad we started here. You know, we had an opportunity to chat just a little bit ahead of time. And the fact that this is where we're starting our conversation, I think is just so spot on, because in what you just described there, in that run that you kind of did of, you know, what you would say to the lady that walks up to you is like, oh my goodness, you're Carrie. Like, what would you tell me about you? And where we're already at in the conversation, there's so many things that we can unpack there. And I'm looking forward to touching on a bunch of them. I want to start with this. When you talked about Aubrey, and actually I was going to say, okay, if you were to brag on Aubrey here for a moment, what would you say? But you went right into it. You're like so proud. You had this look on your face. You were just thinking through like all the things you love about her. You mentioned the person that she is. So tell us a little bit about who is the person that she is that you're so proud of?
She's this... you know, she didn't have a dad, right? Like her dad was not in her life at all. And really all she had was me, because the family that I came from, almost all of them are either dead or in active addiction still, right? Okay. So it truly was just her and I.
Yeah.
And so for a little girl to be brought up with just a mom and nobody else, right? And curiosity of like who her dad is and even who her family is, to still have so much confidence in who she is as a human being, and that is comfortable making decisions only because she comes from a place of like what is kind, and it's about other people usually. Like she just puts other people first, and most girls her age just don't have the capacity emotionally to do what she does. So she's got a very high, emotional intelligence. And I think the coolest thing about her is that, she doesn't do social media or anything that you would traditionally believe in her age group.
Yeah.
But I think the coolest thing about her is watching how she interacts with people, like strangers, literally anybody.
Yeah.
We were at Hike for Hope 2 weekends ago, I think it was. And she was working a table, and there were people coming up and talking to her. And I found myself kind of standing back, and I realized that I was like hawking my kid with the most cheesiest grin ever. Like it was like slightly embarrassing. You know what I mean? And I thought, oh my gosh, like she would kill me if she saw me over here doing this. I'm just so proud that she was able to overcome a lot of the childhood traumas and adversities that she experienced, and still walk with her head held high and make sure that regardless of who she's speaking to, that she speaks to them with like kindness and respect.
Yeah.
And I can keep going because she's my best friend. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like
you guys are close, aren't you?
Literally mean like. She is the closest friend I think I've ever had in my life. And I feel really lucky to have the relationship that I have with her. And I can't wait to see what life brings her. Like I'm super jazzed to watch.
Yeah. Well, and here's what I'm envisioning. I'm envisioning people that are listening to this and sharing this with their daughters. Sharing this with their young daughters, their teenage daughters, their daughters in their 20s, and just as a way of like another resource, another voice to say, here, listen to these characteristics, listen to what's going on in her life, listen to the person that she is, the confidence that she has, and just drawing out for them like how they can apply that, how they can share that. But I'm going to say this, Carrie, you were her mom. You are her mom. And she's grabbing from you what she saw. And she might be enhancing it. She's probably bringing her own style to it, her own flavor to it. And yet, these are things that she probably saw in you.
Yeah, I definitely don't know how to not be me, I guess. And that didn't change with motherhood. So I was always very open and transparent and vulnerable with her from day one. I never hid life behind a curtain. Like I let her watch me maneuver through life. And during the tough times, I let her walk through it with me as far as like watching what I was doing. And I always took a lot of time to explain to her like how I was working through those things, how I felt after. Because I think I always wanted that growing up. I felt like maybe my beginning to adulthood would have been a little easier.
Yeah.
But I think I just really wanted her to know that like life's not perfect.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard. And I'm certainly nowhere near perfect. But if I can show you my most vulnerable moments and give you some tools for your toolkit to use later, then I'm going to do that. And that's probably part of the reason why she's so dang cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm going to highlight a couple things in there because for any of you that are listening, whether you're a parent or a leader, those are things that you can utilize with your kids, with your team, with your family. It's important that we walk through life together. I mean, that's part of experiencing success. It's part of experiencing the greatest joys that we possibly can in life is walking through it together in the way that you just described that you did with Aubrey. And even mentioning, there were some of these things I wished I would have had as a child. And that is sometimes what we bring into our parenting or into our leadership is what we wished we'd had, right? And sometimes we bring in what we thought went really well, and sometimes we bring in what we wished was different. And it sounds like you really did that. And as a young parent, I can imagine there's also times where you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
For sure.
And so I'm just going to do it, and whatever I think is right in the moment, and then we'll figure it out as we go. And in some cases, you might have felt like you and Aubrey were figuring it out together.
For sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of very imperfect moments along the way, for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned, in the tough times, and I think sometimes, and I certainly fall into this from time to time, in those tough moments, we want to protect our kids from seeing what's going on. As leaders, sometimes we even do that with our team, right? We sometimes want to protect our team from those tough moments or buffer them or create margin. And sometimes that can be healthy and sometimes it's not. Is there a particular tough moment you can think back to? Maybe it was when Aubrey was young, but at a point where you look back on that and go, I'm so thankful I allowed her to experience this with me. What is a tough moment that you think of that you could share with us, that you just walked through it together, you allowed her to see it?
There are so many. One thing, I'll start with this, but I have one for you.
Okay.
I never talked bad about her dad. I'll just say that. So I could have, but I chose not to do that and not to allow her to carry that burden and let her figure that out when she became an adult, and she did. But I felt like I needed to say that because while I was very vulnerable and open, there were certain things like that I knew would impact her negatively.
Yes.
And that she wasn't emotionally mature enough to handle.
Thanks for clarifying that, because that is important.
Yeah. And I think one, gosh, there are so many. I don't even know which one to go with here. I'll go with one of my more recent ones because it was huge. It was very life-changing for me. I had worked for an organization for 20 years. And so basically her whole life. She was 2 when I started there. And that place became my identity. And I had a really unhealthy relationship with my boss for a while that then turned to a business partner.
Okay.
And when I finally hit a place where I knew it was time for me to move on, and I had no idea what the heck I was going to do next. I just knew that I needed to get away from that.
Yeah.
I was like very open with her through that process. She was in college at the time, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. And let me just tell you, I've lived a lot of lives, but that one was the toughest. I allowed her to see my emotion associated with that life change. I allowed her to understand why I was leaving and the steps that I was taking to do so, but also I allowed her to see my courage and not really knowing what was next, but putting myself first.
Yeah.
And I just kind of let her be a part of that journey. Even the moments that were super vulnerable and I felt very broken, while I wasn't venting to her and letting her be my counselor, I was opening up so that she knew what her mom was going through, in hopes that if and when she ever hits that point in her life, whether it be personal or career-wise, that she realized that, or realizes that it's okay to change, and it's also okay to be scared, and sometimes it's also okay to not know what you're going to do next.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I gave her that gift. She brings it up to me often. That was I left in July of 2022.
Okay.
So it hasn't been very long.
No.
But she brings that up to me often, and she's used some of those techniques like in college, for example, and changing her mind on some things, and in her career and things like that. And so, I would say that's probably my most recent kind of moment that was, it was hard for me to do.
Yeah.
It was hard for me to have those moments with my daughter, without me not even realizing what I was going through totally or knowing what was next, because we want to show up for our kids where we have it together.
Yeah.
We're strong.
Yeah.
We know how to do X, Y, and Z. We know what's next. And so I don't know, something in me just told me it was that I needed to do that for her.
Yeah. What a great time period in her life too, where she's going to be going through a lot of changes and a lot of uncertainty, and that, late teens, early 20s, that's a critical time period.
Yep.
And so you really did. You gave her an outstanding gift. For all of you listening, there's a reason we're unpacking this right now. And it's because, when we think about various stages of life, when we think about what's happening in our own lives, and as all of you know, when we talk about what has allowed someone to experience such a high level of success, when we allow, and when we find out that, someone is in, say, what is perceived as a high powered position because of what they do professionally, or when we perceive that they've got a certain amount of wealth, or they've got a certain amount of connections and relationships, and we put our own story to that. And here's where I'm so thankful that we've started here, Carrie, is because we're allowing people to see there's always a path towards what we see as the current moment. There's always a journey to what we see as the current moment. And for anybody listening, that's where some of this inspiration is going to come from. So I'm going to ask an informed question, and you touched on it, but I'd love for you to unpack it for us, because you stated something that's actually extremely empowering, but I don't know that any of us ever give it the credit of how empowering it is until we do it. And here's why I'm setting this question up this way, is because in anything that you've shared so far, it is very others focused. It's focused on your daughter. Even when you mentioned, I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a granddaughter. Mm-hmm. It's very others focused. But in this particular moment, when you made this major change, and as you mentioned, this was an organization you were with for 20 years. Mm-hmm. It provided probably a lot of, ways for you to be able to raise your daughter a certain way. You certainly made a ton of professional progression through that experience, starting as a receptionist and moving all the way towards being COO of that organization. And then you have this moment where you go, I'm going to put myself first. And then you share that with Aubrey. What in the world did it take for you to actually put yourself first and go, this is something I need to do?
Probably not my proudest moment, but we're just going to keep it real.
Please do. Thank you.
I think I had endured a lot of, I endured a lot of trauma in that work. Mm-hmm. And I was so focused on being in survival mode and making sure that, I could take care of my daughter. Mm-hmm. And I tried to be what somebody else wanted me to be. And so, I was never good enough. I could hit every goal and every metric, and there was always something, right? And so I felt like I was on this 20-year hamster wheel of running to continuously try to prove myself. Mm-hmm. But I was never going to get there. And I think that I lost myself in that, because I was trying to be somebody I really wasn't, to meet somebody else's goals and standards and expectations. And what really did it for me, it wasn't necessarily totally planned. I have all these mentors, and I sit in these round tables, and I love therapy and all the things. Mm-hmm. And my leadership coach that I had been going to, I started to kind of open up to her about some of the reality of what I was working in.
Okay.
And we decided, okay, I think I want to leave. And so while there was no real plan, mm-hmm. There had been discussions. But without giving too much detail, there was a situation that occurred that went completely against my moral compass.
Okay.
And I went home that night, and I was like, gosh, I would never allow myself to be in a situation like this in any other part of my life. Like, why am I allowing this to happen at work? You know what I mean? And I just made a promise to myself that night, like, if this ever happens again, I'm leaving.
Okay.
And I didn't know it was going to happen 30 days later, but it did.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know, like, the words just flew out of my mouth. I know he was super stunned. I was super stunned. But I knew the moment they came out that it is what I needed to do, what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to go back on my word.
Yeah.
He definitely was shocked and took quite a few weeks of convincing me to stay. And during that time frame, I really was like second guessing myself, like, maybe he's right. Maybe maybe I am like all the things that he said, and maybe I am not going to be anything if I leave here. And maybe he did provide me these opportunities. And so I felt really scared.
I bet.
Like super, super, super scared. And I felt like I had nobody to talk to. So I just kind of felt like I was alone in it. And the one thing that like I just stood on was like, I already said it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not going back on my word.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I did it, honestly, over that, 6-week time frame of basically being told I'm not leaving. I don't know how I fought for myself. I think I was just so ready to be myself.
Yeah.
I think I was ready to be healthy and happy and myself. And I got to a place, truly, you'll crack up at this, where I told myself, if I leave here and I have nothing, I will start working at McDonald's making minimum wage. I will learn the operations of that McDonald's. I will eventually manage the McDonald's, and then I will buy the McDonald's, right? So like I went through this whole thing and I was like, oh, okay, I have my plan. Like that's not so bad, right? Like I got this. And so I just stuck to it and I left. So that is a long way of me telling you, that was the first time I think in my adult life that I actually fought for myself. And it was the scariest thing ever. And I had no idea really what the outcome was going to be, but it was worth taking that risk to see if I could be happy.
Yeah.
And it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was totally worth it.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about that.
Okay.
So thank you for taking us back into that moment. And here, somebody is listening to this and they're going to use your plan for themselves. Carrie, I don't know. There's something inside me that's telling me there's going to be somebody listening to our conversation right now and they're going to go, I'm using Carrie's plan. And so I'm going to ask you a question, but then I'm going to walk back through some highlights that I heard because I want to summarize that pattern, if you will, that you took, or that path that you took in this. Before I do that, you put us back in the moment, which was so cool. Like I felt like I was living that moment with you just in the way you told it so well. Now, when you reflect back on that decision, as scary as it was, as hard as it was, what would you say you now see on the other side of that you're like, that's what caused you to go, it was totally worth it?
Oh, I kind of just want to be like,
why was it worth it?
The weight just fell off me. I realized like I'm pretty freaking cool and I'm a good person. And I could be myself and people will like me. And I am smart. And I worked really, 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 really hard in my life. And it wasn't all for naught. And it was because I did it, not because somebody gave it to me. It was because I did it. And I think I needed that confidence back in myself. I needed to be able to walk away from that to solidify what I always believed in myself, was that like, no, I'm pretty sure like I did this. Like, right? Like I needed to be away from it to realize that like that was true. I think the other part was I got to like little things, right? Like this is super funny.
Please.
But for the girls out there, they'll probably think it's real.
Give it to us.
Like I quit dyeing my hair. I like was like, I'm just going to be myself. Like, I'm just going to rock my gray hair and I love it. And I get compliments all the time. And I'm not going to wear a face full of makeup. And by the way, like, I'm not going to get up at 4:00 in the morning and hit the gym and eat a certain way and do all that. Like, I am going to do what brings me pure happiness and joy. And I am going to wear Converse to work every day, and I'm not going to wear high heels. And
thank you for wearing heels, by the way, today. I know.
I know.
It was so fun. It was so fun to hear you say that. And yet, You would have totally rocked the Converse too. By the way, I hope all of you, if you're for whatever reason, if you're listening to this just audio, please go back and watch this on YouTube so you can actually see how beautiful Carrie is. So like as you're talking about this, I'm thinking anybody who's actually watching the video is sitting there going, she is beautiful. She does look great. She does rock her. I mean, that's probably what they're thinking as you walk through this. And here's what I hope for you. I hope you'll go back and watch that 30 seconds right there where you described why it was worth it. Because you gave yourself some of the most genuine, authentic compliments of who you see yourself as and who you are. I hope this is just like it's almost as if nobody's listening right now. I'm just saying, Carrie, go back and listen to that 30-second segment anytime and just allow it to fill you up because it was just a great testament to you.
Thank you. I actually didn't even think about it that way. And it's rare, right? Like most people don't feel comfortable saying like, and I'm this, which I never do.
I staged you for it.
You did. You set that one up.
I did, but it was because I really wanted you to unpack why it was worth it. Because this is a piece in your story so far of a pivotal moment, a transformational moment, and where it started. Actually, so this is where I'm going to walk back through. So for any of you listening, if you want to take some notes, hopefully I get this right. And Carrie, I'm giving you full permission to correct me if I get any piece of this wrong. Okay. So I'm going to highlight a couple things. One, I'll call it a triggering event. There was something that happened and you went, you know what? This is not me. This is not me. And so it gave you the realization. It's almost like there was an awareness that took place that in that moment, you're like, okay, something is off. If I've tried to be someone else for so long that now I just experienced something that is not me. But you used very important words and you said, I made myself a promise. I made myself a promise. And that promise and your dedication, your value to your word that you gave yourself is what gave you the determination you needed to get through the rest of it, the scary parts that came after that. Because you made this promise, you said, if this ever happens again, I am leaving. I am leaving. In fact, that's where another part, it'd be cool for you to go back and watch it because like your definitiveness, even as you relived it and described it, was incredible. And for any of us, we can apply that. If there's a change that needs to happen and you know it's going to be a hard change, you have to be convicted. You have to be convicted that, hey, this is something I am doing. No matter what challenge comes up, no matter who tries to question me, no matter who or what tries to make me think that I made this wrong decision, you said, I'm making myself a promise. And if this ever happens again, I am leaving. You know what was cool about the way you described it though, is when it did happen again, it just came out of your mouth. But it's because you planted that. You embedded that inside you to go, I already told myself this is what I'm going to do. And so it was just a matter of like, okay, this happened again. I'm leaving. And then all of a sudden you had one of those look back moments. You're like, what did I just say?
Yep.
Yeah. But then even with whoever this was to try to convince you to stay and all the reasons why you wouldn't be, okay, or you wouldn't be able to make it or whatever, you're like, I will figure this out. Because then what happened is probably without even realizing it, and you've been in leadership long enough, actually, you probably do realize it, but we're unpacking this for everyone else to just go, okay, Carrie had a plan. Even she was making the plan up as she went, but she made a decision, she made a promise, it came out of her mouth, and then it was like, oh, wait, hold on. I've already done this. Like I've already worked my way through. And you're like, even if I have to go work at McDonald's, I'm going to own the dang McDonald's someday. And so that's what I wanted to just reiterate with everyone is the way you brought us into that moment, but you really did give us a bit of a recipe. And in fact, Derek's probably over here smiling and laughing because there's certain words I use over and over like nuggets and recipes and stuff like that. He's probably going, oh yeah, we totally heard this before. And some of you listening are saying the same thing like, oh, this is where he's sharing the recipe. But you gave it a recipe. Can I try to connect something and just see what comes out?
Yeah.
Because there's some qualities in you that are really showing themselves in our conversation so far. And in a way, you've touched on your childhood a little bit, kind of high level. But you've also done a good job helping us see where you wanted to create something very different than what you experienced in childhood. And there again, some hard determination went into that, because that's not easy to do. Even you talked about breaking a generational cycle. Okay, many people have tried to break generational cycles. The success rate of breaking a generational cycle is not very high. So can you share with us, at whatever depth you're willing to, give us a bit more detail of what childhood was like for you, being the oldest, being the protector, trying to be the provider, trying to be the one to like give even a better life maybe for your siblings in childhood. What did you experience having to carry all that? But then maybe that helps us see, but then how did you use that to build something and create a life that's very different and break a generational cycle? Because I think there would be many people that are interested in going, okay, how did you do that? Because I've tried to break this cycle of abuse, or I've tried to break this cycle of divorce, I've tried to break this cycle of drug addiction, or I've tried to break this cycle of alcohol, or I've tried to break this cycle of you name it. And they're like, and yet our family hasn't been able to do it.
Okay,
So,
I gotta adjust for this one. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Me too. All right. Here we go.
Right, here we go. Yeah. I haven't been asked the question quite like you're asking it. So I appreciate the way you're asking it.
Thank you.
Childhood was hard, and it was not fun at all. I was always I'm very sensitive. I'm a massive empath.
Okay.
And very aware of my surroundings. And so I knew very early on that like things were not good, right? Like I'll paint a quick picture, which was probably from, I don't know, 5 to 12.
Okay.
So it'll kind of give you a good idea, even there was a lot more mixed in in the story.
Thank you for that.
But we lived in a small little starter house in Maryville, Phoenix. And
some people know what that's like.
Yeah. If y'all know Phoenix, you know Maryville is, not the greatest area. But my mom was a stay-at-home mom. I'm the oldest. I have 3 younger siblings, and my dad worked in construction. They started using drugs well before I was born, with their drug of choice being meth. And so no electricity, no running water. They had sold, the house was bare boned. So when I tell you they sold everything, like they literally ripped the cabinets off the walls, no appliances, no doors. I mean, like anything that they could sell, they sold it. It was highly roach infested. And we had no beds, we had nothing. And so what we would do is we would just layer clothes and clothes on top of clothes on top of clothes. And me and my siblings would sleep on that, and we'd have to put clothes over top of us so we didn't feel the roaches crawling on us while we were sleeping. Y'all, it was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. My mom was very abusive, both physically, emotionally, verbally, all the things. There was a lot of domestic violence in the house between my parents. My mom was very promiscuous when she and my dad while he was working, and then I was like, know what was going on, and she'd tell me like, if you tell your dad he's leaving, we're gonna lose everything. So here I am, this kid that I'm carrying the weight of my parents' marriage because I don't want my dad to leave. I am trying to ensure that my siblings are eating and sleeping and like all the things. I also experienced sexual abuse starting at the age of 4, with the last time when I was like 15. And so I carried this responsibility to like, well, I definitely don't want my siblings to endure that. I felt like it was just, I didn't get a childhood because I had to be serious and protective all the time. So while my siblings, like, even to this day, we've talked about it probably in the last couple of years, they were still able to be kids. So even though there was chaos and filth around them, they still played Barbies and like, like it just was like, they were able to be a kid, but for some reason, like I just couldn't. I didn't have that piece. So I don't know that I knew at that early of an age that that I was destined to break that cycle, but I knew I hated it, and I knew I wanted to like not be in it. So I was like very good in school and I didn't really try. I was naturally good and I would watch. So like the kids that looked like they had a normal life, and when their parents would come and I would see how the parents acted to them, and I would watch teachers. And so I started to latch on. I would eat lunch in the classroom with the teacher, and I would very much watch what was different about them. And I just knew I wanted to be like that. So I carried that with me. My dad ended up going to prison when I was 10. My mom ended up leaving in the middle of the night when I was 14, and then she never came back. And dad didn't get out of prison until I was an adult. So when I went to live with my grandparents, still in Maryville, Phoenix, Arizona, like I threw everything into like what I didn't have a term for, but mentors, like looking for mentors.
Yeah.
Like anybody who was willing to take an interest in me and teach me something, I went for it. Like I was so hungry for knowledge and change and opportunity. And I got a job working for Maryville Pediatrics when I hadn't quite turned 16 yet.
Okay.
And within a year, I was the lead doctor. He owned the practice. There were 8 doctors. Dr. Martin Berger asked me if I would personally manage his books, his finances.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I said yes. So I got a little side dollar pay for doing that. And then they promoted me, and I was running night shift, like office manager, but at night. And for some reason, people saw something in me from a really early age, and they invested in me like that and taught me things and gave me opportunities. So I was always very driven and always very hungry for something different and for something more. And I think it really just stemmed from the massive discomfort of how I grew up, truly.
Yeah. And see, there again, you're giving us a way to notice that what you focus on really matters. So you knew, and by the way, so did I follow you right? So your dad goes to prison when you're 10, and at 14, your mom leaves. So now it's just you and your siblings.
Yep.
And then you go live with your grandparents, and you still find a way to go, I want something different than this. And I want to commend you on something, because sometimes as kids, we know the world we're in. We don't necessarily always realize there's something different than that. Like I grew up in a small farming town in Iowa, or at least we say that because we moved around so much, it's just easier to say that, right? But here's why I'm highlighting that, is because so many times I've noticed that people that have lived in that small town their entire lives, they don't realize there's like this whole great world outside of these small towns. Referencing back to something that you shared, is you were aware enough to realize this actually isn't the way that it has to be. And you started seeking that out. Like, where do I see glimpses of something different, something that I am attracted to, that's something I do desire for? And then I'll just call it being bold enough to go, can I talk to you? Can I sit in your classroom? Can I eat lunch with you? And then what that turns into is this opportunity of, being entrusted with more, because people are seeing things in you that maybe you didn't even realize in yourself at the time, but then they start to pour into you, and then that helps develop into who you become. And going back to generational cycles, there again, if I was to ask you, what do you think it takes to really have the grit and resilience to completely change, say, the way that your daughter grew up versus the way that you grew up? And now when you described Aubrey earlier and the woman that she is and the woman that she continues to become and grow into, and even seeing, where, not from a comparison standpoint, just from like a pride in who she is of, I notice she's in a different place than other girls her age, or probably other guys her age too, for that matter. We don't even need to say just girls or guy. Like, she's probably just more mature than others her age. So, and you were the catalyst for that. You were the change maker in that. So what would you draw out of that to say, here's what it took? And I'm just going to be real with y'all. Like, this isn't the pretty version. This is really what it took for me to be able to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you said this is not pretty, because it was not pretty. And some people may not like what I'm about to say, and including people I know. But I mean, the first thing was recognizing that I wanted something different and that I was willing to put in the work for it to be different. Yeah. I say this and I mean it very like lighthearted. But I feel like I can like work circles around anybody, male or female. Yeah. I'm up for the challenge, right? Yeah. So I was very, very, very hardworking and am very hardworking. But I would say the biggest thing is the journey's not perfect, and there's a lot of mistakes along the way where you think you're doing something right and you realize it's not, and it's making it worse. But I had to eliminate the people in my life that wanted to stay in that lifestyle, which includes family. Yeah. And so that meant not having a relationship with siblings and parents and cousins and aunts and uncles and the father of my daughter. So it was 100% removing myself away from anybody who lived in that lifestyle. Yeah. And not for judgment. I love my family and I want nothing but the best for them. I want the greatest things this world has to offer for them. But I cannot be associated or around them if they're still living the very lifestyle that I have put my life's work into escaping and changing. And so that is very difficult to do. Yeah. Because oftentimes, right, love does funny things, not just with family, but in general.
Oh, it does.
And I really had to use a lot of my logic. Yes, heart, but a lot of logic and like, okay, this is like the 10th time that I've reconnected with my mom and I find myself in this nightmare. It's easy to get pulled back into those things, especially when you have something more than they do. They made me, they put me in situations multiple times, which is why I'm saying it is not perfect. Yeah. To pay for them things and get them out of stuff. And so I became this like financial support system and emotional support system. And I was like getting drained from being able to provide for myself and my kid because I was being pulled into that mess. And so, yeah, I think the biggest thing was removing all of that out of my life. And I'll just tell you this really quickly. Please. My dad passed away. This October will be 3 years. And he and I, even though he wasn't in active use for like 15 years probably, we were estranged. And while he wasn't in active use, there was a lifestyle that he was living that wasn't healthy for my daughter and I to be around, even though I like dearly love my dad. So long story short, he got diagnosed with cancer. I go see him. And that very day I became his caretaker. Oh my goodness. And so I took over everything. He was alive for 5 months from the day he was diagnosed. I took him to every appointment. I took him grocery shopping. I paid for everything. Like I was his caretaker. I was the only one of my family there when he took his last breath. I managed his everything, right? And I'm grateful for that 5 months. Like I wouldn't change it. I mean, I would change it if he could be alive longer, but I got to know my dad in a way that I never knew him my whole life. And so that was a gift to me. But the part that wasn't a gift was that it reunited me with all the family that I had ran away from for all those years. And so here I am 2 years later, and I am still trying to, with some of them, air quotes, break up, right? Yeah. Like it forced us all to come together because dad was dying, right? And then I would fulfilled my dad's promise to ensure that they got what he wanted them to have, which takes time when somebody passes. It does. But then once that's done, now what? So it's almost like re-breaking up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I do.
And that has been a process. That's been difficult. Mostly because like it's just hard for me to to see their pain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm an empath, you guys. And it's really hard for me to and I love them so much that I just want to like walk over here, do this, fix, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But you can't do that. And so, hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Yeah. And I'm going to, just like I've done it a couple of times, I'm going to highlight a couple of things that you shared in there because first is there are some very, very difficult decisions that have to be made. You have to recognize, what in my life is going to help me get to where I want to be and what is not. And sometimes that means people that you've been close to, people that are blood related, people that you've supported or helped or gotten them, through other pieces of life before, and realize the influence that that's having. And you mentioned something. I'm going to give John Gordon a call out right now, a shout out right now, because he uses a phrase called an energy vampire. And so you talked about how, it was like draining the energy out of you to be around people who were important to you, but also realizing they were not going to help you get to where you wanted to be. And making those difficult decisions to say, I can't be associated to this anymore. I am not able to be around this anymore. And I need to do something different. And with people, especially when you care the way that you do, when you have the heart that you do, that is extremely tough to do. And you mentioned something in there where you said, look, for a while, I had to lean on my logic. And as much as I wanted my heart to take the lead, I had to lean on my logic. And that way it's like, okay, I'm making a very logical decision here. And it's probably going to sting and it may even upset people. But then it goes back to each way that helped you build your confidence in your own self-worth. Each time you made that alignment to where you want to go or a new value that you've put inside you, then all of a sudden you get stronger and you get stronger and you get stronger and you get stronger. But I appreciate the way you're like, and then we go through this thing with our dad and I'm swinging right back through again. And now I'm having to work through all of that again. And so it is a lifelong commitment.
Yeah.
For breaking some generational cycles and some grace, knowing you're not going to get it right all the time.
Yep.
You're going to have setbacks. You're going to have times where you feel like you're stepping back, but then you just make sure that the steps forward are so much more and they multiply over time. And there's where, again, you've given us kind of an insight to, and look where my daughter is today. Look where I am today. And so I want to kind of finish out with that. Okay. Now, you're the CEO of The Worker. Okay. Now, I'm going to leave it up to the audience to look up The Worker and the work that you guys do and why this is so impactful. And I actually kind of want to give this as an action to anyone listening to say, go check it out. Like, check out why Carrie is in the spot that she's in. She's in the right place. She's in alignment with being able to utilize what she's experienced in just an incredible sort of way. So we're actually not going to give anybody on that. You all have to go do the work. Okay. You got to go do the work, look up The Worker, look what's happening now. Look what Carrie's leading. Look at the way that her team looks at her and talks about her and the impact that they're having in our community in such a huge way. You're going to see so many connections to Carrie, what you've already shared with us. So I'm actually just going to ask you to summarize it this way is to you, okay, for you, why is this role so critically important? And why do you feel like it's come to you to have the opportunity to serve as CEO of The Worker at this particular moment in time?
Ooh, that's a good one. This is the first job that I've ever taken because I wanted it. Because it spoke to me. It wasn't because I need a job, right? I need a paycheck. It spoke directly to my heart and my logical brain. It was like, what? I could take the 20 years of experience in leadership and bring it into a space that is like basically nothing but heart work. And so also I'll say that I can become complacent very easy. And so that's probably part of why my journey has been like constant upward moving because I can only, once I've conquered something, I gotta go. And so it just so happened that the organization was not healthy.
Okay.
It was, we're knocking on wood over here, that we're still here. But it was not financially stable. The culture was fragmented. Bad, broken relationships. It was just not good. And so it was like a massive challenge for me. And it was extremely fun maneuvering through all the challenges, both in the operational side of the business and the financial side, but also the people side.
Yeah.
And so I've been there for 3 years, and year one was stabilizing and all that. And that was super cool. Looking back, I can't even believe where we are today. It's actually really, really wild to think about it. But each year, like there's just something more that I'm like, my brain is constantly creatively thinking about both how can we serve more, but also how can we like be more financially sound and grow and all these things. So it's been really fun. It has been the most, from a career lens, the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done in my life. I get to be myself. Like I literally get to show up every day, 1000% me, which is so freaking cool. And I got to build a leadership team and an organization of people that I adore, that we have fun, we work hard. I mean, there's so many things that I can say about where I'm at with that today. But what I will say is that I will always be in something like this.
Yeah.
Like this may not be my forever, but it is and was a fantastic entryway into what? Like I can be a CEO, number one. And then number two, I could do amazing things and like rebuild an organization and make it like financially stable and successful on top of that, while changing lives. And that has been really cool. And I want to continue to contribute my gifts for as long as I possibly can.
Yeah. I want to ask you about something because you touched on, so things were tough. It was rough. Year one, stabilizing. And then what was like year two, and you're in year three now. So what is year two look like compared to year one that's now helped you get to where you guys are today?
Yeah, year one was getting us out of a $1.7 million hole and creating structure, process, procedure.
Okay.
Year two was making sure that I had the right team now that it was like stabilized to help me like grow it.
Okay.
And so year three, we purchased 2 homes. So the business has been around for almost 40 years, and first assets.
Wow.
So debt-free assets. So we have no debt. We have assets. We have a fantastic culture, a really crazy good leadership team.
Yeah.
And as we're looking into the future, I'm looking at, okay, we've grown, we're stable, we have assets. Now we need a pretty good revenue stream to make sure that we're set up like when Carrie no longer exists, right?
Yeah.
And so I mentioned I worked in real estate. So like there's this like little part of my heart, right, that really enjoys real estate. But one of the things I talk about often is, there's a big focus on affordable housing. There's a market rate rent. And then there's this like weird gap between that even like our kids, right, like kind of fall into that gap.
I know it.
And so I'm like, gosh, I'll go talk to like the politicians and the council members. And I always like, I'm talking about what about this gap though? Like where do these people live? And so I decided we're going to fill that gap. And so I'd like to look at purchasing some multifamily properties and being able to list them for rent in the gap where we don't have to be about making that profit and following the the rental rates that bring you the biggest bang. But it will bring a revenue stream into the worker. It aligns with our mission. And so, yeah, I think there's exciting things to come, but it really boils down to stabilizing, getting the right people in the place, and then growth.
Yeah. Actually, thanks for summarizing that. That's about what I was going to do. Here's what's really cool. Okay. So when anyone that's listening to this, they can apply that in their personal life or their business life. It could be a leader that's listening to this going, okay, I just stepped into a turnaround story. Like, we've got some major issues going on here, and I'm not even sure if we're going to make it. And they can listen to what you just shared right there and go, okay, how do I apply that? How do I stabilize this thing? How do I get the right team around us? How do I paint a vision now to help us actually fulfill the mission of this organization and grow? And somebody could be applying it in their personal life, because I don't even know if you see it or if you recognize this, Carrie. It's exactly what you did as that 14 to 18-year-old. It's the same thing. You found a way to stabilize your life. You sought out people, the right kind of people, and then you've grown ever since.
Wow. I mean, I've never looked at it like that, but the people you surround yourself with is so important in every aspect of your life.
It really is.
So, wow. Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
Okay, so let's finish with this question. This is the one we ask everybody.
Oh, gosh.
Okay? All right. Wealth and abundance.
Yep.
These two words mean a lot of different things to different people. If someone was just to ask you to define what true wealth and abundance is to you, what would you tell them? What is wealth and abundance?
To me, it is like family and health. Like, I yearn for family. And, one day I'm sure Aubrey will have kids, right? And I know I'm going to be a great grandma, and I cannot wait for that.
Are.
Oh, I cannot wait. I want to be healthy long enough to see and feel what it feels like to have family. I don't chase dollars. I don't chase things. I chase happiness. And right now, the thing that's most important to me is loving, nurturing relationships with people and my kid.
There you go. Loving, nurturing relationships with people, Aubrey, and health. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope all of you take the parts of Carrie's story that will resonate with someone. Carrie, my hope is pieces or all of your story just spreads like crazy across many people that you and I may never ever meet. But please, all of you, share this episode with someone it will create a positive impact for. Somebody will connect to pieces of Carrie's story. Just share it with them. Just give them the link and say, you're going to want to watch this. You're going to want to listen to this. And Carrie, I just want to thank you. Thanks for being so real with us. Thanks for sharing pieces of your life that have been so meaningful, so critical to your success. And as you mentioned, like, you still have a lot more to come. You still have things that are going to happen in your life. You're like, look, this current position I'm in may not be my forever, but I know what I'm going to pursue next. I know how I'm going to connect with it. I know how I'm going to base those decisions on whether I say yes or I say no. And so thank you so much for just coming in, being you, and allowing us to just have a phenomenal conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Seriously, this was cool. Great conversation. Love how it flowed, and just, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. As you know, there's more to life than money. Come back and join us the next time.
Thank you for listening to the More to Life Than Money podcast with your host, J.W. Rayhans, financial advisor, jw@rayhansfinancial.com. Guests are not affiliated with or registered with Cetera Wealth Services, LLC. Any information provided by guests is in no way related to Cetera Wealth Services, LLC, or its registered representatives, unless otherwise noted as a representative of Cetera Wealth Services, LLC. The opinions contained in this material are those of the author and not a recommendation or solicitation to buy or sell investment products. This information is from sources believed to be reliable, but Cetera Wealth Services, LLC cannot guarantee or represent that it is accurate or complete. Securities offered through Cetera Wealth Services, LLC, doing insurance business in California as CFGAN Insurance Agency, LLC, California Insurance License Number 0644976, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cetera Investment Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. California Insurance License Number 0M15552. The views depicted in this material are for informational purposes only and are not necessarily those of Cetera Wealth Services, LLC. They should not be considered specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Neither Cetera Wealth Services, LLC, nor any of its representatives may give legal or tax advice. 313 North Gilbert Road, Suite 200, Gilbert, Arizona 85234.